It's called Create, which is community regeneration by emerging artists transforming empty spaces.
What do you know about this place?
It used to be an antique shop, and I gather before that it used to be a bank of some sort. And I lived in the area quite a long time, and so I just saw the doors open one day and the sign outside and wandered in. That was just a few weeks ago.
And when you came, what did you find out?
There was a community space, and that they had bingo, and I played bingo for the first time in my life, and I won.
What did you win?
I think about £3.
Actually, I passed by and I started the sewing circle because I had something that needed sewing.
I was just passing by and I noticed it was open. Came in and had a chat with some people and asked them what they were going to do, and they said, well, they was open to all sorts of different ideas. And since then, it seems like a really useful place.
I've been working across the road, and when I saw this space open, I decided to come and see them, and that's how I got involved. So they're trying to organize things for the community. I think it's great.
I'm a neighbour who lives in the area of Tulse Hill where Creates is located. I moved here about 6 years ago, and this building's been empty for that long. It's in a remarkable space, and what's just so amazing is I walked by here about 4 months ago, and the building was open and people were doing things in here. And what Creates is doing is not only providing a much better alternative or solution to what David Cameron's calling the big society, which a lot of us don't agree with, but it's also rejuvenating an area that has so many children, so many young people.
When we first came in the space and seeing how big it was, we all had a lot of ideas. We can do this, we can do that. The practical side of it is it does take time.
They had a few projects on already: the walk of West Norwood, the history, the cooking night, which I loved, what they done, the cycling, the yoga. I think, yeah, it's a great space, and it's a great moment for people to get involved and come regularly.
You've been running yoga workshops at Creates for a while now. How's it been going?
Yeah, it's been really good. When they had the open day, I just moved in around the corner to a new house. So I saw them all outside, and I kind of popped in and had a chat with them. And they said they were looking for people, and I volunteer my services.
Helena's a great instructor. It was a great class, really great. It's the sort of thing you'd probably pay £15 for in anywhere else in London.
So I really like the space here. As far as yoga, it's lovely because there's a back room, which we're in at the moment, and it's really nice because we can take ourselves away from all the hubbub of everyone else in Creates and all the things that are going on outside. We can take ourselves away and just create a nice yoga atmosphere. So we lay all the mats down, I put some incense on and some candles, and for that yoga hour we just kind of really relax and get to the zone.
Would you recommend it to friends?
Oh, definitely. I know some of my friends have already been this week on Tuesday and had recommended for me to come today, so I'll certainly be recommending for others to come.
It's been really lovely just being able to share yoga with the community, and it's a nice feeling at the end of a class when people come in quite frazzled and they leave feeling refreshed and kind of smiling and ready for the weekend.
I like Creates because it's about a lot of people with very strong characters, different characters, and they all want to give something back to the community, and I think they can only be interesting people, and I'm only going to meet more interesting people.
What do you think about the fact that it's run by a group of young volunteers?
Well, I think it's great. I think they've done really well. They probably could have been doing other stuff.
So, Athena, tell me about yourself.
That's a really, really broad question. I don't know what to say. Okay. We started this space because we felt that there wasn't a thread connecting West Norwood. So myself and a couple of friends saw this building and wanted to change it from something that was quite sad into something that was quite positive. We contacted the owner and he agreed to give us a free license, and we turned it into a free community space. So we thought that we'd get lots of people from the local area, like meet some neighbours, have a positive like community project that everyone could get involved in, and the most important thing is that it was for everybody and it was inclusive. So it's not like a hierarchical structure of like you have to get in with people and then do what they are doing or whatever. It's kind of like whoever joins makes it what it is.
I volunteered at Empty Homes for a year.
What's that?
It's a UK-based charity. It runs out of London, but it's UK-wide, that tries to raise awareness and tries to make policy changes regarding empty properties to get more empty homes back into use, considering how many people are on the housing waiting list and how many empty properties there are. And so I volunteered there for a year, and that really impressed upon me that not only are there empty buildings, but there is something that you can do about it, but sometimes you just have to do it yourself. And so Peter and Serafina and I all used to live up the road here.
So was that near Creates?
What's that?
You used to live near Creates?
Yes, yeah, I lived just up the road in West Norwood. And so they had known that the building was empty here for a long time. You couldn't see through the windows. There was, you know, dirt. What you could see that it was decaying. And they came up with the initial idea of let's do something in this building. We kind of developed what would we like to do, and yeah, I got really excited and really passionate about combining two things that I really believe in, which is you know, horizontal grassroots kind of action, along with something else that I'm very passionate about, which is getting empty spaces back into use, and it all just came together really.
I would love it to become a hub, like a community hub, just somewhere people came, hung out, met each other, met people they wouldn't ordinarily meet. Somewhere really welcoming and a nice environment.
The country's in a real difficult economic position, and what governments and councils need to do is utilise, you know, the enthusiasm of young people or of anyone really to you know, replace services that they're saying they can't offer.
Volunteers that give a lot of their time to create. Why do you think they do that?
Well, again, I think people understand that capitalism is not working, and the people who want to change things, the people who are think for themselves, will get involved at some point with community volunteering, space, work, or involvement to give back and to try to change things for older people, for elderly, for younger, for everyone. So, and I think it's great, and I think it's only going to go stronger. I think it's only going to get better, because that's what we need right now. A bit less about the money and a bit more about everyone.
What sort of help do you need?
Well, we need people who have knowledge and skills to come by and help us run workshops, or to help us, because you know, this is something that we did put a lot of thought into it, don't get me wrong, but it's not something that any of us had really done before. So people who have experience in putting together community centers or community-based projects, people who are particularly good with media, people who have time to help us and do some footwork, handing out flyers, people who are able to run activities, especially people who could do it consistently, like week to week. That would be incredibly helpful. We just need the community, really.
We live in an age where people need to do more in the community in a real way, rather than talking about it, and this just seems to be one of those spaces.
You've got a space downstairs. Has that been used much?
That hasn't been used. The toilet flushes now, which is we haven't been able to use it. The building itself is really old, and there's a sump pump that has kind of a continuous leak. And we kind of had this grand plan that we would get the top floor into use, and then once the leak was fixed, we would start doing up the basement of it, potentially for like long-term art projects or long-term workshops.
What would you like to see this community centre offer?
It would be beyond me, but anything that makes people happier and gives them more skills, and makes Tulse a bit more of a vibrant place rather than a throughput for traffic, would get my support.
I'm working on one project myself, and I'm trying to get it off the ground. So I hope in some times we can manage to do something together with that project, which is a sort of online community supermarket.
I want everything to be run by people, for people, in the way that we all feel comfortable using it, rather than tailoring what we do because of money.
How's it been going?
It's kind of, it comes in fits and starts. So like, initially, I think when there's a targeted thing to do, people get really involved. So when it was the clean-up, we had like 20 people, 30 people pulling wallpaper down and cleaning the ceiling and sweeping and painting. We've only been open Saturdays because we have a core of volunteers, and we decided if we got more people, we'd open more days, and we've just not really had anything higher than a core of kind of 4 or 5 people. So it's been quite hard to be open, and we've been doing it for 6 months, and it's always kind of like 3 people or 4 people every week.
I'm surprised that it hasn't taken off a lot more than it has, but I think the location's got a lot to do with that. You know, because it's not really on the main high street where the shops are and stuff.
So can you think of any other way they could get people to come in here?
Well, maybe standing at the high street and leafleting.
So how does it make you feel that your plans haven't sort of developed the way you wanted them to?
It makes me feel, sometimes it makes me feel really frustrated. Sometimes I feel pissed off about it. Sometimes I feel sad, and then other times I feel like it's maybe inevitable, because I don't know, I think things take a long time, and I think that the kind of feeling in London is generally one of like detachment from your immediate surroundings, and I think that the fact that we don't want anything from people other than their company and their time causes people to feel quite distrustful. I don't know, quite suspicious. Takes them a bit of time to engage with it, I guess.
This has been open for 6 months, and quite a lot has happened in that 6 months, but I think it just needs a bit longer. I know that we have West Norwood Feast just up the road, and that happens once a month, and the people there are really supportive and behind the Creates team. So I think it's just a matter of perhaps the community coming down a bit often and really putting themselves behind the Creates team and ensuring that it succeeds.
I think if there was more people at the back there where the big estates are knew about this, you know, you might get more feedback and more parents interested in it and stuff.
You need community support, but you also need financial help as well, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, you know, at least, and I think we all kind of agree that, you know, financial solvency was never a long-term plan of ours. As long as we had enough to pay for the water, pay for the electric, and hold up our end of the agreement, then we didn't want to have, you know, money hanging around or money left over. I think that the financial support that we needed would have come from Lambeth Council and giving us a discretionary discounted business rate, which they haven't done, which is extremely frustrating. But in terms of, you know, say fixing up the downstairs or even fixing up here, the support that we've gotten has been manpower and donations, you know, free paint, somebody lending an hour to come and sit with us, or lending a couple of hours to do painting or hoovering, or, you know, that's been done by people power rather than financial power.
I mean, we're just really getting off the ground when this news has come through that we've got a big bill and we're going to have to shut.
At the moment, we're battling with Lambeth Council because they want us to pay business rates, and they're treating us like a small business. And we don't have any profit. Like, we've got, like, I don't know, we've had about £70 worth of donations, and that's gone on bills.
Do you think the council should do more to help?
Yeah, certainly.
I mean, do you have any ideas how they could help?
Well, yeah, not charge rates for a start. or have a dramatically reduced rates bill.
There's a whole bundle of ways from you know, councils actually doing a proper cost analysis of what you're doing and how much money it actually saves them in terms of trying to do similar stuff.
At the moment, I think they should consider, this is a non-profit organisation, there's been no money coming in. Most of it's been working on people's time. And I think the council should consider that. Money is not top of the agenda with a property that has been more or less empty for a decade. So therefore they've not been taking any money. I don't see why they suddenly should now. Just because someone said, look, we can run this as a creative space, but hey, we don't have money. Please consider that.
What kind of support would you like to see Creates get?
For the council to acknowledge that we're a non-profit organisation. If they let us stay here for free, it would just be good in general for the community.
The building's empty. There are people in it doing fantastic stuff. That's a fairly simple equation on a human level, as it should be kept going.
I work at a university, and one of the problems that the schools have is that there's no place for students to be working on in having their own kind of workspace. So if you need space for stuff and things like this, I mean, this space is enormous, and the people that are working here themselves are graduates.
I have a background in fashion.
I've been practicing yoga for about 12 years myself, and I've been teaching for about a year.
There's a real social value to what's going on with Creates. It's an initiative that should be supported, and if they lose this space, it's going to be very hard for them to find another one.
And it comes down to a belief in the power of people to do stuff, rather than the power of, for want of a better word, bureaucracies to stop them doing it. So it's really simple.
What they did was they fixed this place up. It was almost demolition ripe disaster area, and it's livable and it's wonderful. So instead of squatting, what they've done is they've transformed it into a really wonderful contribution to this neighbourhood and to South London, and maybe to the world. Who knows what artists are going to come out of here.
Some people think that this place is kind of like a squat. How does that make you feel, considering the work you've put into it?
I mean, I don't have a problem with squatting as such, but it is a bit hurtful, I guess, because it means that people aren't getting involved, because they worry about the connotations that come with squatting. I think the reason, let me think about this for a second. You know, it was important for us to have a license to be here, and we've tried to promote to people that we've had a license since we've been here, because we wanted it to be something that was lasting and long term. People knew that we would be here for at least 6 months, and that would give them time to get to know us and to be a little bit more comfortable with it. And like I said, although I don't have an issue with squatting, it's difficult for people to see the difference between empty building going back into use as an occupation versus what we've tried to do, which is go through all of the formal and legal channels, and to go through all the formal and legal channels and then have it shut down because we tried to do things officially, that's more hurtful, to me at least, than people thinking that we were a squat.
I think the people that run it are amazing, to give up their time every weekend to do something for their local community. It's wonderful to see, and it's really nice to see how it's been progressing. You know, from nothing, we have regular yoga classes. There's a guy that comes in and does tuition. They've done bingo nights, potluck nights where people bring along food. You know, there's a real sense of energy and enthusiasm, and it would be a real shame for this place to close and to go back to what it was before, a building that, you know, that wasn't being used, that has so much potential.
I've been involved in projects where people actually find friendship and community through painting projects, quilt projects. It gives people an opportunity to sit together, indulge in an art or a craft, or an activity even, and develop their friendship from there. And this is what we need more of.
And how do you think Creates can do that?
Top of my head, keep the place open.
I think it's a real shame that these guys are obviously trying to run this space and giving people an opportunity to do different things that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do. So it just seems a real shame to shut down someone's opportunity like that.
If Create puts up a website or a possibility for donations towards the £1,600 back rent that the council is demanding from them for what was a derelict site, then not only do they have the problem of no location, they have the problem of a debt. And these young people, young at heart, young at mind, creative people should not have to bear that load when so many councils' houses are just lying rife and they're empty. So it's really an important small contribution anybody could make to sign a petition, start a petition, bring your kids around before it closes down. The location will be in this video. And try and support them because they're doing something remarkable.
I've lived here for 1995, so that's what, 17 years? This is a really bad spot in terms of being able to kind of build a community because obviously it's a south circle of the road. This building's been empty for God knows how long. And it just seems that at a time when council spending is being cut back massively, initiatives like this make more sense to be supported rather than caught up in red tape.
Do you feel proud of what you've achieved so far?
I do feel proud of what we've done. I think that, you know, we've gotten a building that was empty for many years back to being something that people want to sit in and people want to do activities in. And so I am proud of that. And I'm proud of the effort that we've put into making that happen. But I think it's yet to be seen because the important thing for me is that it doesn't go back to being empty. And right now I feel powerless to make that happen. So if it goes back to being an abandoned building, then I will still feel a little bit of disappointment.
One thing that strikes you is just how many empty buildings there are, unused for years. I think that's a national disgrace, actually.
What good do you think it's doing the community by it being open? How is it helping?
Well, of course, it's helping them with the free lessons that they give and the other workshops, and I think it's an eye opener to the community on account of you know, disused buildings being used in a positive way for the community.
If we don't fight this, it makes it easier for them to do it to other people. And even though we may have to close, we've shown that it's possible to see an empty shop on a high street, ring up the owner, get it for free and turn it into a space. And there's people potentially who want to rent now this space, so our initial aim and objective has worked and we've got it back into use and it's no longer a sad building with smashed windows and stuff. And hopefully that will show people that it's not that hard.
Regardless of what happens for our space, I don't want this to be a deterrent. It doesn't mean that what we are doing can't be more successfully replicated somewhere else. And just because things haven't worked out to plan this time, due to naivety or due to bad luck or unfortunate circumstances, it doesn't mean that it can't work. If people find alternative ways of doing things, it's always going to come out better than sitting around and waiting for the council or waiting for someone else to do something that you want to do. If you envision it, then you can make it happen.
You're having difficulties. What's kept you going?
Because we believe in it.